We'll just give everyone a minute to join in. Hello. Just going to wait for a little minute until we're all ready to go. If anyone can hear a snoring dog, I have a snoring dog right next to me, so apologies if there's any funny noises coming from my end. We'll just give it a little bit longer just to see if anyone else is joining, and then we'll get started. Oh, hello from Turkey. Very exciting, very jealous. Wish I could be somewhere exotic right now. Let us know where you're joining from in the comments if you like. Hello Cheese Academy, thank you very much for having me. Hello Catherine. I think we're at 7 o'clock, so I think we'll probably get started on tonight's tasting. Thank you very much. It's lovely to do this experience with you, and I'm really excited to talk about cheese with people, because it's not been a year of getting many opportunities to talk about cheese. So, oh, Mallorca, oh, Toronto, this is all very exciting. And Hampshire is just as exciting also. I am here in Bermondsey in London. My name is Ellen, and I manage the online sales and the events and tastings for Neal's Yard Dairy. And I'm really excited to be here tonight as part of the British Cheese Weekender, which has just kicked off. There's already been some really amazing talks happening, but if you can, go across to the link in the blog of the bio, of Cheese Academy, and you can get the full lineup. There's loads of really amazing things happening. So no cheese, oh dear. So make sure you check that out. And I guess also, as well as thank you for supporting the British Cheese Weekender, a massive thank you for supporting British cheese in general over the last year especially. It's been a really difficult year for a lot of industries, but especially the British cheese industry, and I know that your support over the last year has made a huge difference, so thank you very much. I joined Neal's Yard Dairy about 6.5 years ago, and I suppose before that point I always knew that I liked food and I liked cheese, I liked certain drinks, but I never really questioned why I liked it, whether it was the flavours that I liked, the combinations. I never thought, why do I like that specific cheese or that specific food? And it wasn't really until I joined Neal's Yard Dairy that I started to question that a little bit more, and to think, you know, what is it about that particular cheese that I like? And I think also I was very a very emotional eater, and I had certain foods that I would go to in certain situations, which I think most of us do. Cream of tomato soup, big one for me. Every time I'm ill, cream of tomato soup. And I'd always had that through my life, and I never really thought about why it was that I was doing that. And then I joined Neal's Yard Dairy, and I actually joined the accounts department, which was not a department that I expected to be that involved with cheese. I was really pleased to be working for Neal's Yard Dairy, but I didn't think that I'd get the opportunity to interact as much with cheese as I did. So I joined the accounts team, and pretty soon after that got sort of thrown into a walkthrough, which is where different departments or different teams, or sometimes a lot of teams, come together and go through our maturation arches and taste different cheeses, different batches of the same cheese, decide which one works for certain departments. So if we're sending some of that cheese across to the US, then it needs to be younger and firmer and a bit more stable, whereas maybe if we're going to sell it right away, we want something really in your face and oozy. And I got to join a few of those, even though I was just doing credit control. And it was quite a scary thing to start with, because I didn't know any of the terminology. And everyone at Neal's Yard, I think one of the amazing things about working with Neal's Yard is that you do taste cheese a lot with each other. So you start to use these different words to describe cheese, and because you taste it together and talk about it together, everyone starts to become aligned with what they mean when they say brothy or savoury or mushroomy, and you have the same word for the same flavour. But when you start going into it, it's a really scary thing. And I think I was quite intimidated at the start by thinking that I had to find all of these words that would describe the cheese for me. And it wasn't until I think a couple of walkthroughs in, I realised that people were starting to use more contextual ways of describing cheese. So I remember we were tasting some Oval Shield, and Andrew Lokes, who runs Landrace Bakery, which is very good, was with us at the time and said that it tasted like a roast chicken dinner at his nan's house or something. And it really hit home with me then that actually you can describe it with words and with different flavour descriptions, but also there are some flavours, especially in a really good cheese, that make you feel something that you felt in the past, or take you back to a certain place or a certain meal or a certain situation. And that's when I started to feel a bit more comfortable with talking about cheese, because I'd found that and I'd found that way that even without all the background knowledge and the years of work that people put into understanding cheese, I could still find my own way of describing what I was tasting. And that was a really exciting moment for me. So I started kind of getting a bit more comfortable with the walkthroughs, and started really thinking then about describing cheese in terms of flavour descriptors and words. And up until the lockdown, that's kind of where I was more focused, and I was really thinking about how to describe what I was eating to colleagues or to people who'd never tried that cheese before. And then got to lockdown, and I ate a lot of cheese. I don't know, I'm sure, have you all eaten a lot of cheese? I hope that I'm not the only one. Bit of lockdown cheese weight. And I guess I started realising that the reason that I was eating the cheese wasn't just because I wanted to eat cheese, and wasn't because it tasted of umami or manure or anything like that, but it was because it was taking me back to these places that I'd been, or these experiences that I'd had, and it was making me feel like part of something again, rather than just as an individual sat in my home with my dog, who also very much likes cheese. And it was really interesting to kind of go back to how I thought of cheese at the beginning, before I started to hone in on those words, and going back to thinking of it as an emotional thing that you could talk about. And I started thinking about a few cheeses that really have a lot of meaning to me. And I'm going to start with Lancashire, Kirkham's Lancashire. Here it is. I've got a lovely big chunk. I don't know if anyone else has got any with them. Very excited to eat it. And this is a really, really special cheese for me, because it's one of the first times that I really interacted with a cheese and a cheesemaker and a farm. And I, if you can drive and you work for Neal Dairy, you'll end up doing a driving shift. And I think my second driving shift went up to the north and went round Cartmel. So you go around and you're in your big van, you pick up all the cheese to bring back to the maturation arches. And the northern run, which is the one that picks up the Lancashire cheese, you stay overnight in Cartmel in Cumbria, and you have the opportunity to then have a little explore, go to bed very early. 4 a.m. the next morning, you're up and you're driving to Lancashire. And I arrived at this farm having never been to a cheesemaker or a cheesemaker's farm before. And I walked into the room that held all the cheese in it, and the smell of butter and fresh milk just totally blew me away. And it was really, really exciting, because I sort of felt like I was where it was happening, and it was an incredible smell. They once they've made the cheese and they've clothed it, they then rub it in butter, and it sounds a bit strange, but it feels like you're walking into a sort of a vat of butter, and then when you taste the cheese, and it's a really good batch, it feels like you're being coddled in that cloth and wrapped up in butter, and it's just this amazing kind of fresh, buttery, milky flavour, but it's still got that brightness and the acidity, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And it's a beautiful place to be at 4 a.m. And when you're stuck inside your house in a lockdown, and then you can have a piece of this cheese and you feel transported to this place in the middle of nowhere in Lancashire at 4 a.m. in the morning with the sun rising, and you walk into this room and the smell of butter just knocks you over. It's a really transportative, not sure that's the word, but we'll use it anyway, transportative cheese, and it's really helped me a lot through lockdown, because as soon as I eat it, I feel like I'm there rather than stuck inside. I've got family who are farmers in Wales, and it also takes me there a bit and back to my childhood when I would go and sit in the kitchen there, and there'd be milk that's basically come from a cow to a jug for a cup of coffee or tea. No judgment. Oh, geez, chills. And it's a really kind of vivid memory for me, and eating this cheese really brings back that memory. Thank you very much, Graham Kirkham. And I think childhood memories are a lot more important than we give them credit for, especially, just learning Instagram. Apologies, I think I'm letting people in. Oh dear, not 100% sure what I'm doing, sorry. Yeah, it's a really important thing, the memories that you get when you're a child. And I think I would eat Babybel and cheese strings when I was a child, and that reminds me of feeling really safe, because when you're a child you don't have all these responsibilities and you don't have anything, and I'm annoyed that the cheeses that make me feel like that, and the cheeses that make me feel safe and yeah, I guess take me back to being a child, are things like Babybels and cheese strings, and I'm very much weaned off them now. But it's a bit of a personal passion of mine to get children for the next generation to be craving British farmhouse cheese or handmade cheese or artisan cheese that they can have access to now, and in 10 years time when they need to fill a little cheese blanket, they'll reach for that rather than some of the other cheese strings. And that brings me to my next cheese, which is Kool-Aid. I've been really lucky, and I've gone to a lot of markets with Neal's Yard Dairy, and done a few slate stints, very difficult to say. And I think if I come across a child that isn't keen to try any cheese, this is my go-to cheese, because as soon as you give them a nice chunk of Kool-Aid, it's lovely and sweet and caramelly, and I haven't come across a child yet that once it's in the mouth, they don't love it. So I'm resting a lot of hopes on this one to be the cheese that the children of the future crave when they're feeling a bit down and they need a cheese hug. So fingers crossed that we'll get somewhere with that. I think another one that my colleague Miranda mentioned earlier was cheese curds, cheddar curds, and they are, I would say, the upscaled version of a cheese string, and they're another absolute winner with children. And I think if we can get people craving that instead, then we'll definitely be doing an excellent thing. Yes, Irish School of Cheese. I love it. Once I start, I can't stop. It's very difficult. So I was thinking a lot about childhood cheese, things that I crave when I'm feeling a bit down. And then I was thinking about things that I crave now, and things that I crave subconsciously. And that brings me on to my next cheese, which is, it's stuck to my plate. So I'm gonna have to, I can't get it up, I'm afraid, but it's Baron Bigod. Whoop whoop. And And this is back again when I was still in accounts, and I was joining one of these walkthroughs. I think I might have just joined the wholesale team at this point. And we were selling Breed and Mow at the time. So we had Baron Bygod and Breed and Mow, and we were selling them side by side. And I remember vividly this walkthrough because it was a really exciting moment, because it was the first walkthrough where they decided to phase out Breed and Mow and just feature Baron Bygod. So as much as we love Brie and as much as we love French cheese, oh, Baron Bygod in the US. Send us a message about that. I'm not sure, you might be able to. Yeah, it was really, really exciting to think that we could just feature a British cheese and that we didn't need one of those very, very few cheeses from outside the British Isles that we did have. And it felt quite revolutionary to be getting rid of Brie de Meaux and focusing purely on this. And one of the things that I really, really love about Baron Bygod is that people have very distinct ways that they like to eat it. Some people love to eat it. I'm not sure if you can see the breakdown there. This is me trying to get it off the plate. And some people love it totally broken down like that all the way through. And other people really like quite a chalky centre to it. And it's a really interesting contrast. There are some cheeses like Lancashire where I went to pick up my cheese for this earlier today, and David Lockwood, managing director, said to me, the Lancashire's tasting great. And as soon as he said the Lancashire's tasting great, I knew that when I opened my Lancashire and tasted it, it would taste great, unanimously. And then there's other cheeses like Baron Bygod where it can taste great to everyone, but maybe I really like a chalky centre, and maybe I'd open that Baron Bygod and I'd see that it was totally broken down and I'd be a bit disappointed, even though it was still tasting amazing, just because people have these different preferences. And then there's other cheeses that just totally blow my mind because they're so different in each cheese, each batch, and the variety within that cheese is sensational, but also what people really like about those cheeses varies dramatically. And that brings me on to my next cheese, which is Stitchelton. And it's a particularly beautiful, I don't know how to, yeah, there you go. It's very beautiful. And I love Stitchelton for many reasons. I love the way it tastes. I love Joe, who makes it. But what I really love about it is I feel like it's a little bit like trying to find a husband. Hear me out. And you know that there are many, many, many good men out there who you'd be very, very happy with. But there's got to be that one man out there who is just absolutely perfect for you. And Stitchelton is a bit like that. Each wheel within each batch can taste quite different. And you can eat loads of really, really good Stitchelton and it's amazing. And then suddenly you come across this one wheel and your mind is blown and you fall in love with it because it's exactly the right profile for you. And your colleague who you've been tasting cheese with for years and you know exactly what they like might also be tasting that cheese, and it might not be their perfect husband, but for you it's your absolute perfect match. And that's what I absolutely love about Stitchelton, and it reminds me of how difficult it is to make cheese, because Joe is working, well, first the cows are working with different conditions all year round, different weather conditions, different temperatures. And then the cheesemakers, the dog's making an appearance. And then the cheesemakers are working with different conditions, and they're trying to make this cheese that is consistent, but everything's changing all around them. And it's so incredible that cheesemakers do get consistent cheeses, but it makes it really exciting because it means that we've had a Stitchelton walkthrough up until the pandemic, where once a week a member of each team would go and taste, I mean, once 80 different wheels of Stitchelton to try and find the right ones for their department for the next week's sales. And it's just mind-blowing that you can taste that many different cheeses in a row, and because you're tasting them side by side, you can really taste how different each one is. And it's amazing that the person from the department next to you is making a beeline for this cheese, that actually you'll let them have it because you've fallen in love with this one over there. And it's such an incredible expression of all of the processes that have happened up to that point, and the maturation process, and recognising that actually, oh, let's leave that one for a couple of weeks, mark it to come back to later, because in a couple of weeks' time, that is going to be my jam. So I really think it's a really exciting cheese, as are all of the cheeses that we work with. And I think also I have a bit of a vested interest in it, because another amazing thing about working with Neal Dairy is you get to know the cheesemakers, and you get to know the farms, and you get to know the people behind the produce. And it's a real honour then to be able to sell their cheese and to talk about their cheese, because you know the work that's gone into it, and you know the tireless efforts to tweak and to change recipes and to change the conditions that it's being made in. And when you know how much work has gone into this, like this tiny bit of cheese, it's mind-blowing. So then you can really appreciate the flavours behind it, and it's a really exciting thing to do. I'm going to move on to my final cheese. And my final cheese, it was really, really difficult to work out which cheeses I was going to talk about today, because I've got really amazing memories of a lot of different cheeses, and I also really like, this is where the lockdown weight has come from. I like a lot of different cheese, all the cheese that we sell. So it was very difficult to decide. And I think the next cheese is probably the most significant to me in terms of the last year and feeling like I'm not alone. It reminds me of my colleagues, essentially, and it's Durrus. Don't know if you can see that. Take a while to adjust. It's a beautiful cheese, but it's also a cheese that we seem to come back to over and over again, in meetings, in, I don't know, for me, in low moments, in high moments. It is just generally an excellent cheese. When I joined Neal Dairy, I loved it because it reminded me of going on holiday. It's a washed rind Irish cheese, and it's, well, for me, it's quite similar to some of the cheese that you get in a breakfast buffet when you're on holiday on the continent, and you're sort of, you've got your napkin ready to make your packed lunch, and you've got your roll ready, and you take some of the cheese that's on the buffet and put it away for your roll, and it's really sweaty by the time you've taken it out of your bag at the beach later on. But it's kind of takes you away to this other place, and it's a breakfast cheese. And I love breakfast cheese because cheese should be for every meal and in between meals also, all day long. So that's kind of where it started out being a cheese that I really enjoyed for sort of emotional purposes. And then since then, we seem to always have a chunk at meetings. The chocolate milk of cheese. Yes, it is. It's a chocolate milk, maybe a white chocolate milk of cheese. Who knows? It's really, really delicious. And we often have it. Durrus and crisp sandwich, anybody? It's a really, really great combination. It's a winner. We have meetings at the warehouse above our Borough Market shop. We have a big platter of cheese. Has your dog got a cheese name? He's called Mott, unfortunately, but he does love cheese. Yeah, we have a big cheese board out. We have Durrus, we have bread, we have butter. Very important is pretty much the same amount of butter as Durrus. And then crisps, ideally salt and vinegar. Best sandwich ever. Slapped in a croissant with butter. Yes, again, coming back to the breakfast theme, it is an excellent cheese to put inside a croissant. It's one of those cheeses that just keeps kind of coming up in these communal settings where we're all just tucking into something. And during the lockdown, when we haven't been able to sit down and have a big cheese board in front of us and share it out, and you know, one person makes a crisp sandwich and then suddenly everyone's making a crisp sandwich because it looks really delicious. So I've bought a lot of Durris over the last year because I bring it home and I have it while we're having a finance meeting or something like that, and it makes me feel a bit less lonely and a bit more part of something, and I know that other people are doing it. And yeah, so that's probably, for me at the moment anyway, one of my favourite cheeses to have in the house, just so that if I feel a bit isolated, I can eat some cheese. And they are all the cheeses that I'm going to talk about today. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. I totally agree that cheese meetings are the best meetings. And it took me a few months of lockdown before I realised that I really needed to have cheese available at all times, just in case. Crisp sandwich, Irish creation. Oh, that's controversial. Anyone gonna back up any other creators of the crisp sandwich, or are we sticking with Ireland? I'll take it. Whoever invented it, absolute genius. Yeah. So I've got a couple of minutes left just before we finish. I just really wanted to say that we've got, what's your go-to breakup cheese? Oh, that's an interesting question. Do you know, I think it might be Baron Bygone, or a baked Tunworth. A baked Tunworth, I think, probably would be my go-to breakup cheese. The whole thing. There is no circumstance in which I would eat a whole unbaked Tunworth, but if it's baked, happily smash a whole one. Crisp sandwiches belong to the streets. Absolutely not. Not even going to humour that. That's absolutely not. Munster, nice. I think it's really interesting that everyone's got their bits of food that they go to when they really need to be comforted or invigorated or inspired, or they need a bit of go get them in their lives. And it's really amazing to see what different people's are. And I think, obviously, because I work for Neal Dairy, cheese has kind of integrated itself into my life. I'm glad you would also eat a whole Tunworth. That's a relief. Thank you. I should eat less whole Tunworths, actually. And I just think, basically, I know you've already all been amazing, but another call to just say, if you can make that thing that you always go to, British cheese, even better. If that is your crutch through life, then yes, that's the way to be. So yeah, thank you so much for supporting the British Cheese Weekender, for supporting British cheese. Thank you so much to the sponsors of this weekend. This is insanely addictive. Trackleman's Fig Relish. Don't know if anyone's had it. Don't leave me with a jar of this. Peter's Yard also have been amazing. Their crackers are delicious. OP's, I'm actually allergic to nuts, but I think I know what nuts taste like through cheese. That's something for another time. But yeah, please do check them out. Check out all the other talks. They're really exciting, and it's going to be a really cracking weekend. Yeah, you can watch it in the pub. Just to add, take your phone. Entertainment. There you go. Thank you so much, and have a lovely Friday evening. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the weekend. And I don't actually know how to end an Instagram live, so I'll just I'll work that out now. Thank you so much. Thank you from the dog. Also, thank you very much.